Hey everybody, it is Mark Coe for the 28th of June, towards the end of June, last 2 days of the trading week, the quarter, coming into 4th of July weekend here in the U.S. So could see some significant slowdown, but I have to tell you, it's been a little more exciting here in terms of some of the movement. So I want to focus in on some FX pairs today. A lot of times we're looking at futures markets, we're looking at gold, we're looking at oil. But we're also very active in the FX market. So I want to do that for everybody that's kind of FX specific. And I want to start out with taking a look at euro dollar. And I want to think back of what the analysis has been in euro dollar. So the idea in euro dollar coming back to 2015 has been this wide 105, 110 range for the better part. We've seen a little bit of movement on either side of that. But for the most part, euro's been contained inside of 10 big figures. And it's been very easy to look at that 10 big figures and say, yeah, top edge, all the trend traders are going to start to look for movement higher. At the bottom edge, everybody's going to start jumping on that. I don't know if a lot of you guys remember, but coming into the year 2015, a lot of people's trade of the year, and probably 2016 as well, was euro lower, euro parity, below parity for euro. That was the trade. That was everything they were banking on. Now fast forward a year, 2 years down the road, euro's trading back to almost the same top edge. So the idea of what you're focused on here as a shorter term trader is not what the talking heads who really don't have a lot to offer in terms of the way you approach the market, but in terms of what you can look at. There's a lot to be benefited from taking a look at longer term stuff, longer term weekly charts, monthly charts. I do a lot of work on the longer term charts. But when you get right down to it, when you're short term in nature, you still have to trade what's in front of you and what you're focused on in that shorter term. And so the idea for me is that you want to focus on the longer term trends. This is the way I try to approach trading. The idea of the longer term trend and position for that to benefit you in the shorter term. And so the way that works in euro dollar, the longer term trend has been, it's been wide 10 big figures. But as you start to come down in tighter time frames, you're going to start to see some clarity at levels that are created within that, right? So you're 105, 110 in the euro. But there's a lot of trade that occurs within that 10 big figures. Right? Nobody's just sitting on the sidelines saying, I'll wait for the 115 or I'll wait for the 105. There is activity being done within that. What you have to think about is, how do I profit from that, or how do I put myself in a position to profit from that? Right? So think about euro dollar. Like this is something that I've been saying for several days, going back to when we kind of broke out of this late April movement higher in euro. Euro had every opportunity to trade lower here, right? Every opportunity to trade lower. And it couldn't. It didn't matter whether you were seeing some dollar strength, some, short-term equity type sell-off. It didn't matter what was going on. Euro couldn't trade lower, right? So when a market tries to do something, whether it be trade higher or trade lower, when it attempts it, it's real money getting put to work, right? If you look at euro dollar back early June, they tried to get up to 113. It wasn't ready yet. But what you start to understand is the levels. What I always focus on in my analysis is the levels. It's something I think I do as well as anybody, and it's something I think anybody can do, but sometimes it gets overlooked in terms of its simplistic nature, which is to say, there are lots of fancy ways to tell you kind of how to diagnose markets, and there's nothing fancy about it. It's pretty simple. But the idea is that you're focused on what the market is telling you at a level. And what the market told you in euro dollar is that we're trying to move lower and just simply can't do it. And so I look at that and say, how do I get positioned? How do I try and take advantage of this? We actually bought euro dollar on pullback within this move. We're long euro dollars on our daily model. Something else I wanted to look at too is, how do I do that on a shorter term basis? How do I get position? Right? We're looking at euro dollar on the 28th of June. Euro sells off from 1388 all the way down below 113 the figure. It's a pretty big move inside of an intraday. But understanding what it is we're looking at, we're looking to buy euros on pullbacks. And so the idea becomes, how do I get positioned for that longer term movement and position from a point of strength, knowing that if I take out this former top edge, right, and that's what it was. This was an edge that was created late May, early June, tested again in mid-June. Everybody can see it, 1285, 1290 area. If we come back and test that and break it, it's just arguing for more consolidation. But the idea is that while it holds that, you have to play to the long side in euro. You have to play to the long side in euro. And so euro's now in this big block area up to 115 that has seen selling over the last couple of years. So it's some pretty long-term stuff. But the idea is that when you're approaching it with a shorter-term nature, you understand where the focus is, what those battle zones are, and trade them from strength. So going into this weekend, we're still positioned long euros. Right? We got short S&P. That one's not looking good. I'm pretty certain we're going to be out of S&P. So S&P will continue to treat us the way it's been to the short side, which is to say it's been small losses, but it hasn't paid us yet. But we'll keep the fight up. We'll keep looking at S&Ps. Dollar yen, we've played some short-term longs, but we'll continue to focus on where the trends are. And right now, in euro dollar, we're continuing to trade that trend to the long side. So we'll keep it focused that way. And as we go into the 4th of July, we can certainly look for some slowdown in activity just from a participation standpoint. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and keep up the good trades. We'll chat with you soon. Cheers.